This week we are continuing a topic that began last week with the Day of Judgment and Resurrection. As you may remember, last week we went over the major and minor signs of the coming day when Allah would shatter the world and destroy all of creation, only to resurrect all creatures to stand before Him in judgment on the last day and the last hour of this creation. This week we will discuss what finally happens on this day of judgment and resurrection and why it is so important in the belief of a Muslim. Justice. In a word, this is what the day of judgment and resurrection means. Justice. Many people have asked me how Allah gets paid for a man's sin in Islam. After all, in Christianity, the blood of Jesus is supposed to pay for the sins of others. So as we go through the discussion tonight, it should become crystal clear to you exactly how this happens in Islam. First of all, we need to talk about exactly what will happen in the last hour of creation. Once the time has come that the Antichrist has arrived and been defeated, the Imam Mahdi has come and died. Jesus ﷺ has returned to deliver the Antichrist, destroy Gog and Magog, and then the earth begins to rip apart. Finally, the sun will rise from where it once sat, and the beast of judgment will come and mark all believers and non-believers with the staff of Moses and the ring of Solomon. May Allah's peace be upon them all. Then, after 40 years of reigning over all of us, Jesus ﷺ will die and be buried. Once all these things have happened, the last hour will be upon us. On that last hour, angels will come and sound a blast that will sound like a massive trumpet to signal the coming of the last hour, like the chiming of a clock. The immense sound from the horn of Israfel is mentioned in the Qur'an, chapter 27, verse 87. And on the day the trumpet of judgment will be sounded, and all creatures that are in the heavens and the earth will be stricken with terror, except such as God wills to be exempt. And in humility and with a humble nature, all will come to Him. The intense shock wave of the sound will rip apart the fabric of this world. Mountains will fly apart, the atmosphere will burn away, oceans will vaporize, and every living thing will die as the entirety of creation collapses on itself. The Holy Qur'an makes reference to the sky splitting apart. Now, just this week, I and some of you may have seen photographs taken by the Hubble Space Telescope of two galaxies colliding with each other in space. And the resulting chaos looked as though space itself was being torn open. I wonder, perhaps, if on that day the reversal of the Big Bang will occur and Allah will call all galaxies and planets and stars and asteroids to pull back into the cosmic vortex that began all of creation by His hand. As Allah tells us in the Qur'an, chapter 21, verse 104, on that day we shall roll up the skies as written scrolls are rolled up. And as we brought into being the first creation, so shall we bring it forth anew, a promise which we have willed upon ourselves, for behold, we are able to do all things. The interesting thing here is that the phrase in Arabic at the beginning of this verse can be read as coil the skies rather than roll up the skies, which is more accurate to the scientific process of expansion and contraction with relation to the Big Bang Theory. Regardless, after 40 years, the destruction will be complete, and not one creature will be alive, so the second blast will occur. This shock wave will awaken the souls of the dead to come forth for judgment. The souls of the dead will be clothed in perfect new creations, which will be naked, uncircumcised, and perfect in all ways. On that day, the resurrection of mankind will be able to see one another, the jinn and the angels. The Qur'an reads, chapter 14:48, "The day will come when the earth shall be changed into another earth, and the heavens into other heavens, and men shall come forth from their graves to appear before the only Almighty Allah. Therefore Allah will reform creation in perfection, a new heaven, a new earth, and perfected bodies for all creation in preparation for judgment." At this point, I think it's important to pause and back up just a little bit. You see, before the day of judgment, only a few beings exist in paradise. The Huri, who are the servants of the righteous, and those who have died in true martyrdom, serving the will of Allah, are allowed to enter paradise without torment of the grave or the trial of judgment. Remember, this is those who die serving the will of Allah, not those who die serving a political or monetary agenda. Other than those people, all believers and non-believers wait for the day of judgment in the grave. When a person dies, his soul separates from the body, yet is still caught within it, and must wait in a resting state until he's placed in the grave. This is why Muslim burials are required to be completed as quickly as possible. When the body is then lowered into the grave, one of two things will happen. First, for the believer, a pair of angels will come with faces that shine as brilliant as the sun. They will call the believer with gentle voices and lift the soul out of the body like a gentle waking at dawn. The believer will then be carried up to the heavens. Along the way, the soul will emit a fragrance that is more pleasant than musk, and all the hosts of heaven will praise the believer's name and deeds and will call him the best of titles known in paradise. Allah will say to the angels, "Record his deeds in the Ilyin." The Ilyin is a register of the righteous and is kept by the angels closest to Allah. Then Allah will say, "Return him back to earth. I had promised mankind that from the earth I created him. In it will I return them, and from it will I bring them back out." So the deceased will be escorted back to the grave by the angels, and he will still be able to hear the footsteps of those people leaving his graveside. Two angels will then come to him, sitting up in the grave, saying, "Who is your Lord?" The believer will respond, "Allah is my Lord." The angels will then ask, "What is your religion?" And the believer will respond, "Islam is my religion." The angels will then ask, "Who is the man that was sent to you?" And the believer will respond, "Muhammad, the messenger of God, was sent to me." The final question will be, "What are your deeds?" And the believer will say, "I have read Allah's word, the Qur'an, and I have believed in it, and I know its truth." Then, to reiterate and press the believer, the angel will ask, "Who is your Lord? What is your religion? Who is your messenger?" And the believer will respond, "My Lord is Allah, my religion is Islam, and Muhammad is my messenger." At that moment, a voice will sound from the heavens and say, "My worshipper has said the truth. Give him the bedding of Jannah, and dress him in the garments of paradise, and open a gate for him to Jannah." Then an aroma will come from paradise, and he will be made so that the grave is open and spacious for him. A man with a beautiful face will come to him saying, "I have glad tidings which will make you happy. Be joyful in the pleasure of Allah and Jannah for all eternity, because this is the day that you were promised." This man will be the embodiment of a believer's good deeds. He will testify on the believer's behalf in how he worshiped and followed the law of Allah. Then the believer will be shown a gate to hellfire and the gate to paradise. He will see the place that had been reserved for him in both, and told that he has earned the place in Jannah rather than the hellfire. On hearing that, the believer will exclaim, "O Allah, please hurry the day of judgment so that I can claim this